What if I told you that the political shockwaves from Congo could shake Zambia and even Africa itself? Former DRC President Joseph Kabila now faces the possibility of a death penalty, a development that is more than just a legal battle. This case is raising questions of justice, power, and survival, and it could directly affect figures like Edgar Lungu, President Hakainde Hichilema, and Africa's fragile balance of power. Stay tuned, because the truth you're about to hear is bigger than one man. It's about the future of an entire continent. Breaking news: former DRC President Joseph Kabila is facing the threat of a death penalty, a shocking twist that has stunned Africa and the world. But this story goes far beyond Congo. What does this mean for Zambia, for figures like Edgar Lungu and President Hakainde Hichilema (HH), and for Africa's power struggles? In this video, we uncover why Joseph Kabila is facing death penalty charges, how this case connects to Zambia's politics under HH and Lungu, the hidden regional power games involving Congo, Zambia, and Africa, what this could mean for democracy, justice, and leadership in Africa. Don't miss this deep dive into one of the most shocking political developments of 2025. Africa's shocking news: the announcement that former Democratic Republic of Congo (DRC) President Joseph Kabila faces a treason trial with the possibility of a death penalty has sent shockwaves across Africa and beyond. This development, reported on July 25, 2025, marks a significant turning point in the DRC's turbulent political and judicial history, raising questions about justice, political motivations, and regional stability. Kabila, who ruled the DRC from 2001 to 2019, is accused of serious charges, including treason, murder, and supporting the Rwanda-backed M23 rebel group, which has destabilized eastern DRC. The trial, conducted in absentia at a military court in Kinshasa, is seen by some as a bold move to address impunity, while others view it as a politically motivated attack by President Felix Tshisekedi's administration to neutralize a powerful rival. This news is not just a Congolese affair. It reverberates across the African continent, particularly in neighboring Zambia, where political dynamics involving former President Edgar Lungu and current President Hakainde Hichilema (HH) are already fraught. The case also draws attention to broader issues of governance, conflict, and foreign influence in Africa, especially given the DRC's strategic importance due to its vast mineral wealth. This introduction sets the stage for a deeper exploration of Kabila's legal battle, its implications for Zambia's leadership, and the potential ripple effects across Africa and globally. The significance of this development lies in its intersection of domestic politics, regional security, and international interests. The DRC, often described as a geopolitical chessboard due to its resources like cobalt, coltan, and gold, is central to global supply chains for technology and renewable energy. Kabila's trial, therefore, is not merely a domestic legal proceeding but a flashpoint that could influence regional alliances, economic interests, and the fight against impunity in African governance. By examining the charges, Zambia's reaction, and the broader implications, we can better understand what this means for Africa's future. Joseph Kabila's legal battle explained. Background on Joseph Kabila. Joseph Kabila, born in 1971, ascended to the presidency of the DRC in 2001 at the age of 29, following the assassination of his father, President Laurent Desire Kabila. His 18-year tenure was marked by efforts to stabilize the DRC after the Second Congo War, 1998 to 2003, one of the deadliest conflicts since World War II, which killed millions and involved multiple African nations. Kabila's rule saw relative peace in some areas, but was plagued by accusations of authoritarianism, electoral fraud, and failure to curb violence in eastern DRC, where armed groups like M23 have long operated. Kabila's refusal to step down after his constitutional term ended in 2016 sparked deadly protests, forcing him to delay elections until 2018. He eventually handed power to Felix Tshisekedi in 2019, marking the DRC's first peaceful transition of power. However, tensions between Kabila and Tshisekedi, who initially formed a power-sharing agreement, deteriorated rapidly. Kabila's influence persisted through his People's Party for Reconstruction and Democracy (PPRD) and his status as a senator for life, which granted him immunity until it was lifted in May 2025. The trial and charges. On July 25, 2025, Kabila's treason trial began in a military court in Kinshasa, conducted in absentia as Kabila, who returned to Goma in May 2025 after 2 years in self-imposed exile in South Africa, did not attend. The charges are severe and include treason. Kabila is accused of plotting to overthrow Tshisekedi's government, allegedly through his support for the M23 rebel group and its political wing, the Congo River Alliance (AFC). Murder, torture, and rape linked to M23's actions, including the forcible occupation of Goma and alleged atrocities against civilians. Crimes against peace and humanity, for his purported role in supporting M23, which has displaced thousands and killed hundreds in eastern DRC. Participation in an insurrectional movement, specifically his alleged collusion with Rwanda to destabilize the DRC. The prosecution claims Kabila masterminded M23's resurgence since 2021, which has seen the group capture key cities like Goma and Bukavu. The DRC government, backed by UN reports, accuses Rwanda of providing military support to M23, a claim Rwanda denies. Kabila's return to Goma and M23 M23 stronghold in May 2025 fueled suspicions of his ties to the rebels, prompting the Senate to lift his immunity by an 88-5 vote. Political or judicial. Kabila and his allies, including PPRD Secretary General Emmanuel Shadari and former official Ferdinand Cambra, have dismissed the trial as a political witch hunt aimed at sidelining Kabila ahead of future elections. Kabila himself has called the judiciary an instrument of oppression and the charges arbitrary. Critics argue that Tshisekedi is using the trial to consolidate power, especially as he faces domestic criticism over governance and the ongoing eastern conflict. The timing, amid UDAS and Qatar-backed peace talks with M23, raises questions about whether the trial is a genuine pursuit of justice or a tactic to weaken political opponents. Supporters of the trial, such as researcher Kambale Muzavulai, argue it's a step toward breaking the DRC's cycle of impunity. They point to Kabila's strategic silence during his presidency as enabling armed groups. However, the trial's conduct in a military court, the lack of an independent judiciary, and Kabila's absence raise concerns about fairness. The DRC's reinstatement of the death penalty in 2024 adds gravity, though no executions have occurred since the moratorium was lifted. Current status. The trial was adjourned on July 25, 2025 to July 31st, with prosecutors requesting more time to review documents. Kabila's whereabouts are unclear, with some reports suggesting he left eastern DRC as peace efforts progress. The case remains a focal point of Congolese politics, with potential to escalate tensions if M23 or Kabila's supporters retaliate. Death penalty charges. What's behind them? Legal and political context. The charges against Kabila stem from his alleged ties to M23, a Tutsi-led rebel group rooted in the DRC's complex ethnic and political landscape. M23, named after the March 23, 2009 peace agreement it claims was violated, seeks to protect Congolese Tutsis and control mineral-rich areas. UN experts and Western governments accuse Rwanda of backing M23 with troops and weapons, a charge Rwanda denies, citing security concerns over Hutu militias like the Democratic Forces for the Liberation of Rwanda (FDLR) operating in DRC. Kabila's return to Goma in May 2025 after M23's capture of the city was seen as a provocative move. The government alleges he collaborated with Rwanda and M23 leader Corneille Nangaa, a former electoral commission head, to destabilize Tshisekedi's regime. The charges of treason and crimes against humanity carry the death penalty, reinstated in 2024 to deter rebel activities, though its application in a high-profile case like Kabila's is unprecedented. Evidence and allegations. The prosecution's evidence, partially detailed in the charge sheet seen by AFP, includes Kabila's alleged formation of the AFC, M23's political wing, his presence in Goma, interpreted as aligning with M23's administration, testimonies linking him to Rwanda's military strategy in eastern DRC. However, M23 and AFC leaders, including Executive Secretary Benjamin Banimpa, deny Kabila's involvement, calling the accusations a malevolent strategy. The lack of public concrete evidence and the trial's military setting fuel skepticism about its legitimacy. Motivations. The charges may serve multiple purposes. Political neutralization. Tshisekedi, facing criticism over economic challenges and the eastern conflict, may see Kabila's prosecution as a way to weaken a rival who retains influence through the PPRD and eastern networks. Regional posturing. By targeting Kabila, Tshisekedi signals a hardline stance against Rwanda's alleged interference, appealing to nationalist sentiments. International pressure. The US and UN, keen on securing DRC's minerals for Western markets, may support the trial to stabilize the region, though they risk alienating Rwanda, a key ally. The death penalty's inclusion escalates the stakes, potentially deterring other political actors, but also risking backlash if perceived as unjust. Zambia's reaction. Lungu and HH connection. Zambia's political landscape. Zambia, the DRC's southern neighbor, is navigating its own political tensions between former President Edgar Lungu (2015 to 2021) and current President Hakainde Hichilema (HH), who defeated Lungu in the 2021 elections. Lungu, leader of the Patriotic Front (PF), has faced accusations of authoritarianism and electoral manipulation, while HH's United Party for National Development (UPND) administration emphasizes democratic reforms and economic recovery. The Kabila trial resonates in Zambia due to shared regional dynamics, historical ties, and the potential for cross-border instability. Lungu's perspective. Edgar Lungu, like Kabila, is a former president facing political marginalization. Since losing power, Lungu has been vocal about perceived persecution by HH's government, including arrests of PF members and restrictions on his political activities. Kabila's trial may be seen by Lungu as a cautionary tale of how incumbents use judicial processes to target predecessors. Lungu has not publicly commented on Kabila's case as of August 2025, but his allies have drawn parallels, framing HH's actions against opposition figures as akin to Tshisekedi's moves against Kabila. Lungu's tenure saw close ties with the DRC, particularly through trade and refugee flows from the Congolese conflict. He may view Kabila's prosecution as a destabilizing factor that could increase insecurity along Zambia's northern border, where M23's activities atrocities have already displaced thousands. Lungu's PF has historically leveraged regional instability to criticize HH's foreign policy, arguing it neglects Zambia's security interests. HH's position. President Hichilema, a proponent of rule of law and anti-corruption, likely supports the principle of holding leaders accountable, aligning with Tshisekedi's narrative of combating impunity. However, HH must tread carefully. Zambia hosts Congolese refugees and relies on DRC for trade routes, particularly the Copperbelt's mineral exports. A destabilized DRC could disrupt Zambia's economy and exacerbate refugee inflows, challenging HH's governance. HH's administration has not issued an official statement on Kabila's trial, but its silence suggests a cautious approach. HH's focus on regional cooperation through bodies like the Southern African Development Community (SADC) indicates he may push for diplomatic solutions to the DRC crisis rather than endorsing or condemning the trial outright. However, domestic critics, including Lungu supporters, may accuse HH of complicity if SADC backs Tshisekedi's actions. Connections and parallels. The Kabila-Lungu-HH triangle highlights several connections. Former versus current leaders. Both Kabila and Lungu face accusations of clinging to influence post-tenure, while Tshisekedi and HH use legal and political tools to consolidate power. This dynamic reflects a broader African trend of tensions between incumbents and predecessors. Regional stability. Zambia's proximity to the DRC makes it vulnerable to spillover from M23's activities. Lungu may exploit this to criticize HH, while HH must balance domestic stability with regional diplomacy. Judicial independence. Both nations grapple with perceptions of politicized judiciaries. Kabila's trial in a military court mirrors concerns in Zambia about HH's use of state institutions against opposition figures. Zambian civil society and media are likely divided, with pro-HH outlets framing Kabila's trial as justice for DRC's victims, while pro-Lungu voices warn of authoritarian overreach. The lack of direct statements from Lungu or HH as of August 2025 suggests both are monitoring the situation closely, aware of its potential to reshape regional politics. Regional and global implications. Regional dynamics. The DRC's conflict, centered in its eastern provinces, involves multiple actors: M23, Rwanda, Uganda, and over 100 other armed groups. Kabila's trial could exacerbate tensions. Rwanda-DRC relations. Accusations of Rwanda's support for M23, coupled with Kabila's alleged ties, strain an already fragile relationship. Rwanda's denial of involvement and its strategic alliance with Western powers complicate peace efforts. SADC and East African Community (EAC-SADC), which includes Zambia and South Africa, has deployed peacekeepers to the DRC, while the EAC mediates M23 talks. Kabila's trial may challenge these efforts, especially if M23 perceives it as an attack on their allies. Refugee crisis. The DRC's conflict has displaced over 7 million people, many fleeing to Zambia, Uganda, and Rwanda. Escalation could worsen this humanitarian crisis, straining regional resources. Global interests. The DRC's mineral wealth makes it a focal point for global powers. United States. The U.S., under President Donald Trump's administration in 2025, is pushing for a DRC-Rwanda peace deal to secure mineral access for Western markets. Kabila's trial could disrupt this, especially if it alienates Rwanda, a U.S. ally. China. As a major investor in DRC's mining sector, China may view the trial as a risk to stability, potentially affecting its economic interests. UN and EU both have condemned M23's atrocities and may support the trial as a step toward accountability, but they risk being seen as endorsing a flawed process. Broader African implications. Kabila's trial sets a precedent for prosecuting former leaders, potentially deterring impunity but also risking political vendettas. It highlights judicial independence. The use of military courts and politicized charges raises concerns about fair trials across Africa. Conflict and resources. The DRC's mineral-driven conflict underscores how resource wealth fuels instability, a pattern seen in countries like South Sudan and Nigeria. Foreign influence. The involvement of Rwanda, the US, and China reflects Africa's vulnerability to external agendas challenging sovereignty. What this means for Africa's future. Governance and accountability. Kabila's trial could inspire similar actions against former leaders, promoting accountability but also risking judicial abuse. African nations must balance justice with political stability to avoid cycles of retribution. Regional security. The DRC's instability threatens the Great Lakes region. A fair resolution to Kabila's case and the M23 conflict could strengthen regional cooperation, but escalation risks broader conflict involving Rwanda, Uganda, and SADC. Economic development. Stabilizing the DRC is crucial for Africa's economic growth, given its role in global mineral supply chains. Kabila's trial, if mishandled, could deter investment and perpetuate poverty in the region. Democratic norms. The trial tests Africa's commitment to democratic transitions. Tshisekedi's handling of Kabila's case will influence perceptions of democracy in the DRC and beyond, particularly in Zambia, where Lungu-HH tensions mirror this dynamic. Conclusion: beyond Kabila, beyond Congo, Kabila's trial is more than a legal battle. It's a litmus test for African governance, regional stability, and global influence. Beyond Kabila, it challenges the DRC to address impunity without succumbing to political vengeance. Beyond Congo, it signals to leaders like Lungu and HH that power transitions are fraught with risks. For Africa, it underscores the need for independent institutions, regional cooperation, and resilience against external manipulation. The outcome will shape not only the DRC's future, but also the continent's path toward justice, peace, and prosperity.